While doing the once a month reminiscing, because I too suffer at the hands of nostalgia for the good old days, said good old days actually being a dumpster fire, both the online and my personal life, and due to Eddsworld being my first fandom, it was basically calling to me to see what has changed and if Twinkification still has a grasp on these men in hoodies. That's when I got hammered with a memory buried deep down in that little vault in my brain. And I remembered that there was an ongoing series back then featuring the ship I was obsessed with when I was way too young, TomTord. Spooky here, and was the title and perhaps thumbnail a little clickbaity? Sure. But I'm not wrong. First, to explain what Eddsworld is for those who don't know and were persuaded by my incredible personality, title, and thumbnail. How I wish that was true. It's basically a webtoon that was created by Ed Gold, who sadly passed away in 2012. Eddsworld was first properly introduced as an animation in Newgrounds, where it was then uploaded later to YouTube in 2006, where Ed continued to make more animations. These included his friends and him and their characters that shared the same name: Ed, Matt, Tom, and Tord. As time went on, many things happened. The actual Tord leaving, the character Tord coming back, the actual Tom leaving, or as you may know, Tom Ska. There's a lot, alright? All you need to know is that we're talking about the characters here. Shipping actual people you don't know is real weird, and I would never endorse that. If you want a clearer picture, you can watch the Tommy Bears video briefly covering the show's history. Really, any of his videos about Eddsworld are pretty good. Some aren't my cup of tea, but I respect his dedication. He's been in the game for, quite a bit, while consuming things such as pork soda, the Lemon Boy animatic, which, by the way, just found out, apparently surpassed pork soda in views, and basically all of Zoidberg's work. I came across an AU, which, yes, weren't uncommon, but this one was definitely different, having released in parts on YouTube, which eventually acquired voice acting as well. This being the infamous Purple Sea AU. Upon looking for this AU, I managed to find a complete version, but sadly it was just a re-upload. The artist having taken down her channel as well as her other socials due to her no longer liking her old art nor TomTord, hating it even. People also seemingly pressured the artist when it came to making more of the Purple CAU, sensing a pattern with how a lot of you guys were treating artists back then. And you know what, even now, if I remember correctly, which is barely ever, this AU was made in 2018 or 2019. So let's go on to see how the series about a both loved and hated ship between these two rival characters holds up. And I invite you to go on this adventure with me to rediscover a series I had never gotten to see the end of and is a pretty distant blur. Whether you are a current Eddsworld fan, a fan of the past, a lover of the ship, or a hater. While we're here, please like and subscribe, or else YouTube isn't going to let me out of the basement and into the algorithm. It should be known as I go into this that this isn't me endorsing any hate. Yes, what you are about to see is cringe, really corny even, but honestly I will defend it with my life. It may not be for me now, but the little kid in me was and still kinda eats this shit up. Don't get me wrong, I definitely have a lot of criticism for this piece of work, but it's all in lighthearted fun, because this was everything to me and for so many people when they were younger. Plus, I'm pretty certain the artist was only a teenager, at least at the start of this. Speaking of the artist, she used to go by Yikis Bunny. Yeah, I've accepted that I'll never get it perfectly. Yikis, like I said earlier, deleted all of her social media platforms, and the ones that are still up, everything has been pretty much erased, other than Amino. And, you know, I would too if this was a lot of my old art, which I have. It's a little sad since I do remember her art being an inspiration for me, but then again, I respect the decision, and I really hope everything is going better for Yikis. Especially since what is left of her art is people being annoying and asking if she'll finish the series or what happened. Enough of me yapping though, let's get started with the first episode of the Purple Sea AU. After a brief text explaining that in this AU, the end of Eddsworld never happened, which, if you don't know, is what the original ending for Eddsworld was before it was picked up again, and where the actual Tom left. Spoilers for Eddsworld, I guess? Not really, it's been out for like 8 years now. Tord isn't the Red Leader yet in this universe either, and also, I guess, Matt, which was also a pretty popular pair back then, isn't in it. Man, these ship names, they really did just suck ass. We actually start out with Tom and Tord on a bridge. Tom's flask in hand and looking pretty upset. Tord tells him they have to go. Tom refuses. They argue as Tord tells him he's drunk, and then they blush for some reason. Tom wants to stay alone at the bridge, but instead of leaving him be, Tord drags him. In doing so, Tom calls him dominant. It's in a joking way, but well, he takes Tom to some secluded place, like a tunnel, and then pins him to the wall, and it's just, the dominant Tord doesn't like when Tom says things like that. So now you're going to have to follow me, understand? Isn't this, like, sexual harassment? If my parents ever find this channel, it's so over for me. This is what I put hours into talking about. He blushes and they have a 5-minute walk. Tom, still blushing, gets into the car and Ed asks if something happened. We cut to when they arrive home and Ed tells Tom to take care of Tord, who fell asleep in the back of the car. Tom, seeing him asleep, makes him blush and he leaves him there, heading towards his room. In his room, Tord knocks on his door, and Tom panics, saying he's getting ready for a shower, in which Tord points out it's 1 a.m. and they have a back and forth, causing Tord to leave. Tom blushing as he does. Episode 1 coming to a close. Episode 2, Tord asks if they can be friends, and Tom tells him no, and instead tells him he wants to be more than friends. Like, damn, that just came out of nowhere. They blush and are interrupted by Ed about going back home. Later that day, Tom, Tord, and Matt were all out in the living room. Matt and Tom are playing the board game with the most forgettable name, and Tord was on his phone. After blushing at Tord for the 7th time so far, Matt speaks up about winning only for Tom to win. Matt saying he wants to win too, Tom teaches him, which makes Tord, of course, jealous. He then offers to play Nintendo Switch, making Ed appear, and they are all in on it except for Tom, but after a little flirtation, Tom blushes and agrees. Later, Tom and Tord win, causing Tord to give him a little smooch, as you do with your friends to celebrate. It's not gay, guys, trust. Tom gets upset at this, and Ed and Matt, who just witnessed this, decides to give them space. They kinda don't say anything to each other and just sit there blushing before Tord eventually apologizes. Tom says to forget it, and Tord tells him he's going off to bed, which leads to Tom accepting to be his friend. At the start of episode 3, it's the morning, and Tord is looking at himself in the mirror when he hears Ed screaming to Tom. Tord, coming out, asks what happened, and Ed tells him Tom transformed into his monster form and ran away, which in canon looks like this. Remember this. They then go out on a search for him and they split up. It doesn't take long for Tord to find him, or more so Tom to find him, looking like this cute little demon dog, which was repeated behavior in the fandom back then. Like, I even did it too. And he just cannot get away from the twinkification, even if he is a monster. Tord laughs, saying he's cute, and then points out they should check on Ed and Matt. Tom, upon seeing his lengthy and built body, says no, I guess. Gesturing to follow him, Tord does, and Tom leads him to a little cabin. Tord follows him inside, and we see many of Tom's things, even his alcoholism. Tom lays asleep on the bed as Tord looks around. Then he spots a picture of Matt kissing Tom on the cheek and gets upset. Going outside to smoke a cigarette, he drops it as his phone goes off. This then causes a whole ass fire. This just isn't possible. I guess not everyone has been a secondhand smoker their whole life, so I don't know. Tord yells to wake Tom up, who's in the fun middle phase of transformation that gives him cute little ears and a tail. Tord gives Tom his hoodie, and they struggle to make it through the fire that somehow found a way across the river. More importantly, it burns down the cabin. Tord goes on to ask if Tom is okay. Tom reasonably upset at this, the place being his sort of second home. Tord sits by Tom and Tom gets pissed since it's technically Tord's fault it was burned down. I thought this was funny as a kid and I still think it's funny now. Tom really just yells at him about smoking in the forest like that isn't where the majority of teenagers gain their smoking habits. Tom tells him that he hates him and he doesn't want Tord to approach him, so he didn't get burned too. Tord wallows as Tom walks off, but later back at the house, Tord finally comes back as Tom is crying. Episode 4 is the episode where we finally get some voice actors, and you don't understand how happy I am they did. It warms my heart. It warms my heart. We also get a height chart because people would go crazy over that shit. They still kind of do. Picking up where they last left off, it turns out that wasn't Tord's voice, as Tom goes up to reply. Ed then tells him to rest a bit, and we see a little bit more of a dynamic between Ed and Tom with this. Ed asks him if he's okay, and Tom jokes about him being dead and his ghost trying to communicate, which prompts Ed to tell Tom about Tord's outings. Asking where he goes, Ed says something about a nightclub. Ed gets real close and tells him he needs to sleep. And this dude is not subtle if I turn the speed down to 0.5. I know what you are, Ed. It's more obvious when he kisses his forehead, but whatever, real men do that, so it doesn't count. Ed and Matt leave the room, and after that, we have a time skip to a couple hours later. Tom wakes up to his room fully decorated with the word sorry, and he's blushing. Is this what romance is? Is it mainly just, like, this blushing? Tord speaks up asking Tom about the flowers and confirms it was him who set the decorations up for 2 hours while he was just sleeping. Side-eyeing this man, I'm telling you. He also tells him he's going to rebuild his place and that he made dinner, which 10 minutes later Tom attends to. They enjoy some pasta with definitely no tension or any sort of drama at all. Yep, time passes, and Ed and Tom are watching TV while Tord and Matt clean up. Tord then asks Matt if he has a crush on Tom, and Matt laughs, saying he only likes him as a friend. Matt explains that when he left, Tom drank more and became violent. They still had fun, but Tom was sad most of the time. But luckily, Tom and Ed just happened to be very close. Tord asks what he meant by Tom and Ed being close, and Matt dismisses it. Tom then comes in asking to talk in private. Next episode is Tord helping Tom take down the decorations in his room. Tord tells him he needs to repay him because he spent money on him. You get it. And they have a back and forth before Tom tells him that he forgives him. Tord then pulls out photos of Tom and Ed being close and then asks him if he and Ed dated while he was gone. Tom says maybe, telling him he doesn't have to know. They fight, which Tord was pretty much in the wrong for the entire time. Like, motherfucker left for 8 years and seriously didn't think about the repercussions. Then having the balls to tell Tom he came back for him. Tord then grabs Tom, pushing him as he reminds him of their past relationship and how it was negative on everyone's end. Tord pushes him into the wall and tells him to put in more effort when it comes to them, which Tom can actually accept, unlike Tord. On the floor, they blush and hug and all that gay shit, but it's ruined as Tord asks about Ed again. Tom confirming that they dated while he was gone and for 2 fucking years. Tord abruptly gets up, saying he's going to sleep, which then Tom stops, saying they didn't talk that much. Tord teases him, but settles on watching a movie together. Deciding over watching a romance movie and a horror movie, Tord tries asking him, but sees he already fell asleep. Then he tries to kiss him. Tom catches him, and Tord comes up with the excuse of carrying him to his room. Tom tells him to go ahead, and they fill every status quota of fan service as Tord brings him to his room. Tord stops him before he can go to his own room to ask more about him and Ed, asking really how it happened. And Tom goes on a ramble. He explains that after a party, they were walking back home and Tom was drunk. Since Matt was cold, he wanted to take the car, and with that, a drunk Tom took off his hoodie. Ed telling him to put his sweatshirt back on. Yes, I switched between the two. Fight me. He does, but on the wrong side. Ed walks over, taking his sweatshirt off, and after checking him out, tells Tom to do it right this time, going over to check up on Matt. Back at their house, Ed makes Matt hot chocolate, and he thanks him. Matt then tells Ed that Tom said he really liked him the other day, which causes him to blush. Matt pushing him to talk about his feelings. Tom, outside the door, tells Ed that Matt was telling the truth. Ed smiles as he kisses Tom, and we go back to the present, where Tom says that after that, they started dating. Tord is obviously not handling it well, kicking him out of his room. Tom says goodnight, and Tord is sobbing. We get the last and final episode, that being number 6. This episode shouldn't exist, but due to toxic shippers, God, I feel like I'm 2019 all over again. The artist felt the need to continue so people would stop. So strap your buckles in, because episode 6 is a half an hour and definitely the most interesting episode. Who would have thought? It starts with Tord with tears in his eyes, and upon opening them, they're purple. Tord then pulls out a knife, heading towards Ed's room, who is kind of a freak. We change to more peaceful scenery with a purple sea in the distance. We see Tom walking when he hears a phone going off. This being Tord as we see him behind a bush. Coming out, the scene changes to a beach. Tom then asks what happened. Tord just asks him there's a lot of asking, what he thinks. Tom is confused, but Tord just starts walking, which Tom follows. Tord flirts, and Tom calls it out, Tord telling him it's how he likes him to act every day, with a purple creature appearing behind him. And I don't know either. Don't ask me. Tord looks towards the ocean and tells Tom that it's their love that caused it. But no one can see it due to them both hiding their feelings for each other. But bam, shocker, it's a dream. Tom walks out of his room and knocks on Matt's door, who appears to be in the garage, fucking watching people. Tom instead goes into Ed's room to see him sleeping, which why are you blushing, man? Your ex has themselves a fucking doll and has pictures of you everywhere. Leaving, he goes into Tord's room where he finds a drawing of his cabin. Tom then rushes out and into the forest to see Tord trying to build his place. Tord asking what he was doing here, Tom tells him he dreamt of him, which Tord is obviously very happy about. He then drags Tord back to the house where the neighbors make their first appearance. And last, only briefly as Ed opens the door, upset that they left, them even having the time to change sweatshirts with each other. Tom questions who he heard earlier since Tord was working on his place for hours, which no the fuck he did not, and we cut to this one purple thing again, which I'm assuming is the thing that spoke, and Matt, who can apparently see them, but they're quickly distracted as more fan service is delivered. I read enough Eddsworld fanfiction when I was 10 to know about these tropes. But they add some more classic sorta Eddsworld jokes and this little horror thing, so who cares, I guess. Matt and Ed then leave to go steal a shop's worth of a certain soda brand, which leaves Tom and Tord alone to do more gay shit, which Tord ruins unsurprisingly. Later we see Tord on his phone messaging Paul and Pat. Pause if you want to read it, because I'm not. There's a honk outside and Ed and Matt are back with 2 trucks worth of a brand that you should boycott. They also killed someone, and we see the best bit in the entire episode in my opinion. Friendship goals, man, they're true. Tord, like the little bitch he is, ruins the moment by being gay and being a nuisance in these people's lives, bringing up Ed and Tom's past relationship to Ed, saying he's jealous, and then asking why Ed broke up with him, which causes Ed to be rightfully upset, as he says he didn't, tears welling up in his eyes as he walks into the house. He then sits down by Ed on the couch, which I'm assuming is later, and asks what it was like with Tom, where, man, this is, it brought a tear to my eye. Ed Ed says it was amazing and every moment was perfect and that he was so lucky to be with Tom. Like, dude is not over him and Tord is smiling about it. Ed then suggests that they go out and eat and Matt leaves, leaving Ed and Tord alone where the rivalry starts over Tom. In this next scene, you guys have to experience it for yourself.
I know everything he loves, even in bed. Aw, don't look at me like that. I'm so scared.
Even in bed. Even in bed. Even in bed. Jaw dropped. It's on the floor. Even in bed is fucking crazy. Alright, anyways, this kind of goes on. They get to the car and Tord says he and Tom can sit in the back, but Ed yells saying no. Tom comes in though and suggests that Matt would probably want to be next to him for once, which Ed goes with grudgingly. Arriving at the place, Tord spots Pat and Paul spying. He ignores them as they all go inside, Tord sitting by Matt and Tom sitting by Ed, which Tord, shocked, is very jealous about. Ed then brings up a memory of burning the place down and they reflect, which causes a romantic tension, if this is what you want to call it. Tord, though, is biting his finger from stress of something he made aware of in the first place. Upset, he walks out where Pat and Paul take care of him. Doesn't take long for Tom to come out and follow him. Tord tells them to go away, and Tom suggests going somewhere else as he pulls out Smirnoff. At some steps, which I'm assuming is at a park, they almost kiss, when Ed breaks them apart. Tom is understandably mad at him, asking why Ed has to ruin everything, which sets Ed off enough that he brings up that Tom broke up with him. Tom only gets more upset as he says that wasn't even what he was talking about, which I guess turns on Ed because he just fucking kisses Tom for no reason. Tord's whole world shatters because he hates gay people and Matt just picks him up, leaving the two behind. We then see what happened that night, or at the start of episode 6, Matt having interrupted Tord from killing Ed. Back to the present, Matt and Tord blow up some place nonchalantly. Chocolate factory, I guess. Ed comes around and starts crying, telling them that Tom told him he was the worst person he ever met and he's leaving for a bit to distance himself from Ed, which should have probably happened when they first broke up. I don't know. Tord asks where he is now, and Ed tells him he decided to walk home alone. Tord leaves trying to find Tom, and Paul assists him-ish as Pat brings a tank. Tord gets pissed off, telling Pat off, and Paul points out the bloody tires, saying Tom might be dead, which Tord doesn't take lightly, but his whole demeanor changes as Tom shows up behind him. Paul tries to talk to Tom, but Tord threatens to stab him. Meanwhile, Pat and Tom talk a bit, which embarrasses Tord. Tord then asks if it's true he's leaving, and Tom says he's only leaving for a short time or more, which breaks Tord. They then take the tank back to the house so Tom can pack. Tord then asks him what a book is that he found, and Tom starts crying, which Tord takes to comforting him. They hug and blush while doing so as both of their eyes flash purple, which leads us to see the purple thing from earlier and another one with it. Both represented one of the two, is my theory, but hey, that's just I didn't even watch him. Tord and Tom have more of a sweet little moment, and then Ed arrives asking why there is a tank and who Paul and Pat were. Tom then tells Ed he's ready to go to a hotel, and Ed says he's sorry, wanting Tom to stay. The car ride is silent as Tom arrives, Ed even following him up to his room. He splits off and goes home, which he then finds a note left from Matt about a place, as well as another note telling Ed that Tord took an important book of Tom's and Ed's. Tord in his room complains as Tom kept the book underneath his pillow, Ed coming into his room to tell him it's because he's the best boyfriend Tom ever had. I'm like 70% sure this is what made me hate the ship Tom-Ed when I was younger. What is going on here? What the fuck? Ed then locks the door as they continue to have a passive conversation, Tord jabbing hard enough that Ed slams him against against the wall. Meanwhile, Matt being the child of divorce as he listens to everything upstairs. Oh, and that thing too. Ed tears up and Tord pulls a knife, going to stab him before Ed tells him that Tom loves him now, and it's not even enough for him. Tord smiles, asking if he was serious, which makes Ed leave. Switching to Tom's perspective, that purple shit goes into him. He tries to turn on the TV, and it lags before showing that purple sea, which then deepens to a dark red, looking out at the sea beyond his porch. The scene shifts as he's in a void, a door in front of him, and he goes to open it only for Tord to stop him, telling him not to go in there. Tord says it's a trap, and he just wants to be happy with him. Tom then wakes up as purple fades from his hands. Back at the house, Pat and Paul are still outside saying that he has to come, that Pat has a plan. Tord in his room created a sculpture of him and Tom, but his moment is ruined as he goes down to answer a knock at the door. That being Paul and Pat, of course, who tell him to follow them. Going into Tom's room, Pat pulls a lever and Paul, I guess, sedates him. Pat says that the Red Leader is mad and that he has to come back, while Tord says he only wants Tom as a purple tear is left behind. That purple thing absorbs it as it watches Tord being driven off. It then follows in the trunk of the car with Tord. We switch over to Ed and Matt's perspective as we see more of the purple things, who then in sign language say, "Kill Tom." That, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone with the experience of finding out that gender is just a social construct, is where the TomTord series, known as the Purple CAU, ends. Before I even start on my thoughts, I ask again that you don't in any way send hate or be hateful, or say anything about getting more episodes. Like, I get it sucks, I guess, but let it go. It's dead. It's gone. The artist obviously got the message that people want more of the AU, or else she wouldn't have to put it at the start of every video to not ask. In some videos, she did put that this was Tord Tom, not TomTord, but usually everyone just uses TomTord because it sounds better. Plus, the name like that is supposed to show who's top and who's bottom, and I don't know. I think that's just weird, and people really shouldn't have to change the name up for that. She's also had to surprisingly clear up that Eddsworld is not hers, and that it's not a romance thing either. Basically, to think of this as ship's world. Really, most of all, it sucks that however I said it, had to take down all her stuff because of the pressure. I can't imagine the pain of having to take everything down because people only see you as one thing and feel entitled to that one thing. If I do see people in my comments asking for a damn part 2 or being disappointed or dissatisfied in the artist for it, I will be deleting them unless you write a paragraph of whatever, like something valid. The amount of work that the artist put into this and the time and effort will always be admirable. The animation was pretty fluid, scenes were shaded and had perspective. Not only the main artists of the series, but the people who helped animate it, voice act, and who actually supported the series and helped it get out there too. Sure, the voice acting may not be the greatest, but it sounds like just a couple of teenagers doing their best to bring this project together. That being said, it had the writing of a Hallmark film, and take that as you will. Seriously though, it doesn't take a professional to look at this writing and agree that this definitely could have gone better. To give her credit, it's hard to make episodes because of all the art, so it was hard to further the plot. Plus, it was mainly done as fun, at least at the beginning. For example, since it wasn't at all included in the earlier episodes, the classic Eddsworld humor just kind of hits you in the face. They did well with it. It feels like a gag from Eddsworld, but I'm just not expecting to see it and then see Tom on top of Tord. While eugh does a good job with foreshadowing and bringing up Tom's and Ed's relationship, she doesn't with those fucking purple things, or the whole purple idea in general until episode 6, so it feels kind of out of nowhere. And then it's also never explained or mentioned once by anyone. In an animatic, they're kind of hinted at, but that's really it, I believe. Said animatic also did reveal more lore, which in my opinion should have been in the series itself instead of an animatic. But I'm sure it worked better on her channel anyway, since it was all in one place. For how the characters acted themselves, it's a whole other story. In old-fashioned internet lingo, this template basically tells you everything you need. TLDR, victim, nice guy aka murderer, weirdo who can't get over his ex, and finally the kind, childish mediator with alternative motives. Of course, they still resemble their characters in some way, it's just kinda 60-40, you know? Out of all the characters, I have to say I like Matt the most. Scratch that, he was the only character I liked. He was just the only character I enjoyed and actually could do a bit of a chuckle at, a giggle if you will. Although some parts of his character could be a bit infantilizing, it's whatever, he's the best character out of this whole series, so I'm focusing on the positive. It was a little sad that we didn't get to see more of Matt having this like alternative motive or whatnot. It was discontinued, so I can't mind that much. I think one thing everyone can agree on though is that all of their relationships were fucking toxic. Pack it up, Skittle Squad, either you become a polycule or you guys are moving the fuck out. I'm sure there's so many more things I can point out and give examples to with the opinions that were hungered in my fried little brain, but this is a video essay type commentary about an AU involving two fictional men based on real men who were twinkified to make it more appealing. So feel absolutely free to comment down your thoughts and opinions. Hell experiences if you were around during this time. This is where I'll be ending the video, but wait, what's this? Oh my god, this video has a sponsor? Oh? Totally not Spooky here, hiya. Did you know I have a card? I mean, Spooky has a card. This is where you can find their other socials, including his Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and a desert. Not just that, she even has a business email where you can submit any questions, criticisms, actual sponsors, as well as fan art, which, holy shit, hi, hello, that's so crazy. Thank you to the two artists who made me fan art. I never thought that would happen. Genuinely, this means so much to me. I can't believe I've gotten this far when it comes to YouTube and just, man. Speaking of art, you can also commission me, which if you're comfortable with, can land your commission speed paint in a video. And if the commission button doesn't satisfy you enough, there is also my portfolio where you can see all my examples and drawings. I don't say this enough, but thank you for all the support. I can't express my gratitude enough, and this has been such a cool experience, and it's all thanks to you guys. To those who are wondering when the next creepypasta video will be, it'll be soon. Just a little busy hyperfixating on a certain media everyone told me I need to watch. I want him. I've been Spooky here, and you guys need to seriously learn how to treat and respect fucking artists.
Sun through the window, glass on the pane. I've been passing time just doing my thing. I was out working, whole month straight. Hit you back in a week, too tired.